Okay, well, one of the other exercises that we're going to do is a skid pad. And the skid pad's the place where you're going to really play with weight transfer and with sliding the car to get it to go around the circle of the skid pad. They'll be relatively large diameter so that you can get a reasonable speed in second gear and carry some momentum around the track. And so the skid pad will be set up so that we've got an inner circle and an outer circle, which will be marked with relatively few cones. And then we'll have a starting point. And I should mention there'll be someone at that gate at the starting point telling you when you can go. And then there'll be an exit point. And those will have to be marked with cones so you know where they are. So we're going to ask you to start out counterclockwise, come into the circle, and start doing a rotation. And we recommend you do about 3 rotations. Don't do too many, but don't do too few. So 3 is about the right number. That allows everyone to keep cycling and not getting bored while they're waiting. And your goal, probably the first time through or the second time through, is that you're going to just try and hold a constant speed, keep the car close to the inner circle, and discover just how much speed you can carry that way without getting a lot of slipping and sliding. Then you'll exit from the circle, at which point you'll come to the next circle, which we'll place far enough away that we can have a car in each circle without there being a risk of interactions between the car, if you will. And so now you'll come out of that exit and come this way through and out. And when you come in here, you'll make the hard turn so that now you'll be going clockwise. So this one follows the clock, and this one is counter. And then you'll circle around doing the same sort of thing as you did in the last one, but in the opposite direction. The 2 circles may also be somewhat different diameter, like 100 feet and 80 feet, so that they also pose something of a different challenge for doing the exercise. All right, well, that's the first time through. After that, we want you to experiment with using sliding friction, with looking at feeling what happens to the car when you suddenly lift, feeling what happens to the car when you apply a lot of brake and apply throttle at the same time. In a front-wheel drive car, you'll find that turns you in and keeps you going nicely around the circle. In a rear-wheel drive car, we're hoping that you can manage to get the car sideways, so you've got the counter steer going on, and where your front wheels are turning away from the skid, or into the skid as we say, and you've got a fair amount of power into the back end so that you're constantly going around the corner with the car sitting at a 30-degree angle or something like that. That's the goal. It might take you a while to get there. You might only get sort of halfway around the circle. We'd like you to try for that in the front-wheel drive car, but what's more likely to happen in the front-wheel drive is you get into that situation, you'll carry it for a while, then the car will snap back on you and get stable, then you've got to get back there and it snaps back because it always wants to get into the understeer situation. Unless you do left foot braking, which we've talked about already now, and the left foot braking will allow you to get a better effort at constantly going all the way around the track. So these various skills we've been talking about through the rest of the evening, this exercise is really meant to apply an awful lot of them. And I should also mention that the previous 2, this one and the next one, are also all set up so that they're going to kind of force you to learn on your own, so that we don't need to give you a lot of in-car instruction and a lot of discussion at the side of the car when you are stopped and waiting to go through the exercises, to minimize our contact with each other. And instead, the exercise is designed to sort of force you to see that. Now, if you don't stress the car, if you don't attempt to unsettle it and see if you can still get it around the circle in that unsettled form, you're not going to learn nearly as much from this exercise. There won't be anything of substance to hit out here, so you'll be fine with that. And finally, as you come out of this circle, you come out over here and you come to the waiting zone where there'll be a starter to tell you you can go off and do the next exercise. And also we plan to have, if you'll write your phone numbers on the side window of your car, then we can have instructors who will phone you when you're stopped there and talk to you and give you, you can ask questions possibly, depending on whether you can be heard. And you can get a little bit of instruction from the instructors who will be observing what you've been doing in those curves. All right, so one final system to talk through, and that is turning a corner. Sounds easy, right? Turning a corner at speed, carrying as much speed as you can through the corner, making it from the turn-in point to the apex and to the track-out point with as fast a speed as possible. Right. Well, this washing up is getting dull, so maybe I'll just leave this mess here and finish the last one up. So in this case, we're going to take the track, we'll take a portion of the racetrack that will probably take a sweeper. And at some stage here, as the track goes on to somewhere else, there'll be some kind of access road cut through that would be for safety vehicles to travel on during racing. And you'll just cut off the track and head back this way and come back here to the staging area where, again, the person with the flag will be standing there to stage gate your entrance. Now, what we want you to do in this case is drive the corner, first of all, like it was a typical road course track. Drive on the outside to your turn-in point, make your approach to your apex, and come out at the far end. And then what we want you to do is to begin experimenting with pitching the car and sliding the car through the corner using left foot braking, using lift or turn and lift to get lift-induced oversteer, the various kinds of methods that we've talked about, or just applying a lot of power to get power on oversteer, the various methods we've talked about to get your car pitched. So as you come in here, you've already got the car at this kind of an angle relative to the direction you're going this way, and that's going to scrub speed, mean you do less braking, and get the car set up for the right angle. So it's now sitting here as you've got some vector in that direction, and you're well set up to reach the apex. Then you may pitch the car again at this point to come out the other side. And we want you to experiment with the various kinds of tools we've been talking about in weight transfer in order to get some that will in fact give you the transfer around the corner at higher speed than the classic asphalt style of always using rolling friction. When you get the hang of that, we're going to ask you to experiment with the Scandinavian flick, where you bring the car in and you in fact rotate it in opposite direction to the corner that you're trying to travel, and then you quickly turn it the other way, which will flick the car with more extreme force in the direction that I've drawn there, and get you to pendulum the car around into a position to go around the corner. The snowbanks here won't be particularly large, so again, the situation is set up so that if you run into something, we just have to go pull you out, but there shouldn't be a lot of problem or damage to your car. So that's the combination of the 4 exercises you're going to run through in the morning. You'll go through a round of all 4 of them, and then come back and do a second round of all 4 of them, and increase the level of what you're doing with them as we go. Okay, so that concludes this video. You can stop watching as I fumble around with turning it off.